Hello, my name is Gray Diericks. I'm a fourth grade teacher in Central Iowa, moving into my fifth year of teaching this year. I have a bachelor's degree in elementary education with a specialization in English language arts, as well as a reading endorsement, which I received from Iowa State University. My study is a comparison study of 8th grade students in the co-taught and solo-taught classroom settings and their reading comprehension achievement. The problem is an inability to read. Students are struggling with reading. There's a gap in achievement. In fact, the National Assessment of Education Progress Report in 2009 indicated that 4th grade, 8th grade, and 12th grade students were all scoring below benchmark in the area of reading. Providing support in the general education classroom is important. It's supported by the Every Student Succeed Act and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act as well. Why me? Why this study? Our middle school recently implemented, just this year, FastBridge A Reading as an assessment to evaluate comprehension in middle school reading. The reliability of this assessment is strong, according to the Center of Response to Intervention, which is one of the reasons that our school decided to use this as an assessment to place students in the interventions appropriate for their needs. Co-teaching is supported by ESSA, as I stated earlier. Many studies support co-teaching. One study conducted by Turin and Bayer in 2017 consisted of 12 teachers as participants, and they implemented co-teaching. When implemented successfully, their students were more engaged and more likely to actively participate in class, which in turn impacted their academics in a positive way. There are gaps in the research, however. There's a lack of quantitative data in the research. Many of the studies conducted were qualitative. There's also a lack of data in the middle school classroom when it comes to co-teaching. Many studies have been done on co-teaching in the elementary classroom, but not very many have been conducted in the middle school setting. Purpose statement. Do students whom are receiving reading instruction in the co-taught classroom show greater academic growth in reading comprehension than students in the solo-taught classroom? The impact of the problem is great. If students move through life without the ability to read and comprehend what they're reading, it could impact their later education when looking into high school for these middle school students, or it could impact their jobs later on in life. Variables. The independent variable was the placement of the students in either the co-taught or the solo-taught classroom. The dependent variable was the score received on the FastBridge A Reading assessment. Quantitative research. The research was done to determine the impact of co-teaching and the co-taught setting on academic growth. Possible impact. The data would be used to assist in MTSS decisions within the middle school that this study was conducted in, and decisions for future placement. In decisions for future placement, that just means placement in an honors English class versus a regular English class when making a list of classes to enter high school with. Methods. This is a quasi-experimental design. Quantitative research and data on the growth of students in the co-taught setting will be conducted. The location. The population of the town in which this study was conducted is 12,510. The median household income is $48,135. The school district consists of 2,200 students in preschool to 12th grades. The middle school building specifically, there are 600 students in grades 5th through 8th. Those are the grade levels that are within the middle school building in our town. 32% of these students are receiving free and reduced lunches. 13% of students in the middle school are on IEPs, or individual education plans. Minority. Minorities consist of 15% of our student body. 1% are American Indian, 1% are Asian, 3% are African American, 4% are Hispanic, and 87% are Caucasian. The participants in this study. There are 42 student participants, ages 13 through 14. The class placement is determined by the administrator in the building. The only factor used was whether that student has an IEP indicating that they must be in a classroom that has a co-taught setting. There's no incentive for this study. Students did not receive incentive, and neither did the co-teacher as a participant. Experimental. So this is the co-taught group. There were 19 students, 11 male, 8 female. 90% of students were Caucasian, 5% Hispanic, and 5% African American. 6% of students in this experimental group are on IEPs. The control group. 23 students were in the control group, which was solo taught, 11 male and 12 female. The ethnicity, 91% were Caucasian, 4.5% Hispanic, and 4.5% Native American. 0% of these students in the control group had IEPs. The co-teacher as a participant. The co-teacher and this researcher co-planned together 3 times weekly. Academic needs and accommodations were evaluated. As the general education teacher, I primarily looked at the academic needs of students, whereas the co-teacher looked at accommodations and how to best support students in the classroom. Co-planning ensured the validity of the curriculum delivery in the control group. Materials. Apparatus. Students use their Chromebooks to take the A-reading assessment, and the assessment was used on the FastBridge A-reading website, which was actually already uploaded onto the students' computers. They didn't have to go in and try to find it. It was already there available for them. They brought their own headphones the day of the assessment for each the pretest and the post-test, each assessment. Daily instructional materials were also used. So procedures. The placement of the students in either the co-taught or solo-taught classroom was important. Both classrooms received the same instruction. However, in the co-taught classroom setting, there were more accommodations, and there was a little bit more flexibility with the co-teacher to break up into groups and to work with students individually and things like that. It was a pre-test, post-test study. The pretest was conducted in the winter, and the post-test was conducted in the spring. The assessment was provided upon instruction. The teacher, myself, and the co-teacher both looked through the resources provided for administering the assessment and were able to administer it appropriately after receiving proper instruction on how to do so. We gave students instructions, and they got right to work on that assessment. Like I said, the control group and the experimental group were very similar. However, in the co-taught classroom and the experimental group, students were pulled out if their individual education plans indicated that they must receive assessments in a small group setting or in a room on their own in a quiet place. So students were pulled out at that time for those accommodations. The data analysis. There was a comparison of the pretest and the post-test using independent samples t-test. Results. The hypothesis was not confirmed. There was no statistically significant difference in each group, which I found very interesting. The control group scored slightly lower than the experimental group for both the pretest and the post-test. The placement in the co-taught setting was ineffective in promoting higher achievement in reading comprehension. Limitations. There was a lack of time. As with any other study, you could argue interruptions to the planned schedule there were many interruptions, many snow days and late start days, and a couple unscheduled full days of missed instruction during the time of the study, which was 50 days. The absences did not play a role in academic growth. However, it was interesting to find that students who were gone more than one day actually scored higher on the assessment on average than students who were there consistently every single day of the study. One outlier of the experimental group impacted data significantly. If not for that outlier, data would have looked completely different, showing that students in the co-taught classroom actually would have made a lot more growth on average because of this student. He regressed 87 points from pre-test to post-test. No co-taught training whatsoever. The general education teachers in our middle school, as well as the special education teachers, have received zero co-taught instruction on how to best implement co-teaching. Most of the research done is through blogs and websites that we kind of find on our own, and there's no formal training, which is a problem. Student reading opportunities outside of the classroom differ. Some students have access right away, immediately when they get home, to text, and some do not. Some have resources such as an online resource where they can access books through the public library. Some students have access to our school library, whereas some students have lost or misplaced books and cannot check out books anymore. So there's just a difference in opportunities in reading outside of the classroom. Many external factors threaten the validity of this study. Implications. So this study did not support the idea that the setting could provide greater academic achievement for students in reading comprehension. The teacher-to-student ratio was smaller. However, the ratio is still larger than if those students who needed additional support were pulled out into a small group setting with a special education teacher. Training is needed to support the co-teachers. Two teachers may not always agree or utilize their strengths or weaknesses appropriately. In looking at the relationship between myself and the co-teacher, we got along great and co-planned together and worked together really well in the classroom, bouncing off one another with ideas and instruction. However, the interruptions in the instruction during the time of the study, the snow days and the late starts, kind of interrupted the co-planning time, which impacted how we work together in the classroom as well. My references, and thank you so much for sticking around and listening to my study. It's been a lot of fun getting to see it from Education 697 to now. To see it complete is exciting, and it was very interesting to analyze the data and the results of my study. Thank you so much.